the go live button. So now we are waiting for YouTube to catch up and realize that I have gone live. I think we're live. Hopefully we're live. Looks like we're live. Thank you guys for joining me once again for yet another lunch live stream while we're still working from home. We are going into June. We're going to be working from home through summer, and we're excited for it, aren't we? Yay! Oh my goodness. It has been so exhausting to be living in America these last couple of weeks. And like, I don't want to make anyone think that I'm in a particularly bad position, but I feel like I really made this extra hard on myself to start working at a new place. Just last year, been working on really hard on this game that's going to be launching. It's a particularly difficult year to be working on a game because it's always difficult to work on a launch title for a new console. Always a difficult time. And on top of that, I've been going to school, which has been taking up a lot of my time. And then all these shenanigans that started in March with the pandemic. Everyone's locked down because of that, and then to pile on top of that, all these riots and protests all around the country. And there were going to be protests and riots. It looked like there was going to be some rioting in my hometown, like just a mile or two away from my house. But thankfully, everything that happened yesterday in my hometown, a little city called Kirkland, Washington, right outside of Seattle, everything in Kirkland was really mellow. Everyone was really great. There were some protests, there was some marching, but there was a lot of solidarity. There were, people. There were the protesters, there were the police there in downtown Kirkland. There were some other citizens as well. There was a lot of pictures going around social media of this one individual in particular who just looked like, I don't know, he looked like the kind of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to put it, like citizen militia maybe. He's walking around with an assault rifle strapped on his side, basically saying like, if anybody's rioting, if anybody's gonna like cause trouble, I'm here to stop it, which was mind-blowing that kind of thing can happen. But Washington is an open carry state, so people can do that. All right, enough of that. I am extremely exhausted today. I am so tired. I was up until like midnight last night working on a final project, or a final report for my school project. So, like usual, I got a bunch of sugar. Hopefully it's going to raise my blood sugar, get me feeling a little bit better for lunch. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Eric Winokur, for mentioning that my sound is a little bit low. Yeah, my microphone was somewhere else, so thank you for mentioning that. Should be okay now. Let me know if the audio is doing okay. Like I've mentioned before, I'm not an expert at this. I don't have some system. I feel like even though I've been doing this for how many weeks now? 7 weeks? 900 weeks? I don't know, a long time. I should probably have this down pat, but I don't. I still make mistakes like that all the time. Eric Winokur, thank you for joining the chat. Manic Tricks Woods says, hey Steve, can you eat a large challenge on stream and finish it? And you're asking, how do I stay sane? Ooh man, that is a good question. I am on the edge, I gotta tell you. I think the way that I stay sane is by making sure that I'm extra busy, making sure that I am so exhausted physically and mentally that I just can't exhaust myself emotionally. Oh my gosh. So, thank you for joining the chat, by the way. Some excellent questions there. I've done a couple of big challenges on live streams. I don't know, it's like the thing about live streams is I try to keep the commentary, the like dialogue going back and forth a little bit. And with big challenges, I'm usually like heads down, just have a bunch of food stuffed in my face with like, minutes at a time where I'm basically silent. So I have done a couple of challenges as live streams, and I just don't feel like they're really that entertaining, So if it's something that people want to see, I certainly could, but I don't know. If I was going to do a challenge on a live stream, I feel like it would have to be something like a spicy challenge where I'm not really pushing myself. Something where I can talk and give some commentary while doing the challenge at the same time. And also something that's not speed eating, because I definitely don't want to do a live stream where I'm speed eating. I guess that's a real choking hazard. Like that's the way that a competitive eater might come to his end, you know? Just so folks know that I'm eating. I'm going to keep those right there. So yeah, I picked up some of these Pepperidge Farm, like fancy cookies. I really love these things. I've done a couple of challenges with Pepperidge Farm cookies before. They're most well known for their Milanos. But yeah, they've got a couple of other varieties which are really great. I love their chess piece cookies, their butter cookies, shortbread cookies, stuff like that. And also these thumbprint cookies. They're really great. Something a little bit new. Like a little bit of fruitiness. A little bit tart, a little bit sweet. I love them. They're super good. So yeah, with these live streams, I do always love to hear from you guys. I'd love to know how everybody's handling things. If you're living in America, I'd love to know if you're outside of America. How do things look from the outside? Like, I can only imagine, like, if the only view that you get of America right now is the news media, you know, they tend to kind of sensationalize things a little bit. So definitely it's not great in a couple of cities in America, but I feel like if all you get is what you're seeing from the news media, it's probably not as bad as what you're seeing. So rest assured, America's not burning. We're going to survive. We're going to get through this. It's going to be great, guys. Hopefully, one of these days. Make America nice again. We'll say that. We'll have that be our tagline. Thank you everybody for who's showing up regularly to these live stream chats. By the way, Mannix Ricks, would you ask how I stay sane? I think these live streams do like go a long way in keeping me sane. Because for one thing, like, the knowledge that I'm going to do a live stream at noon is a great reason for me to make sure that I'm, you know, keeping myself showered and clean every day. Make sure that I'm doing laundry and wearing clean clothes every day, so I'm at least somewhat presentable. I know I'm like a t-shirt and jeans guy. I don't dress super fancy, but I do like to make sure that I'm nice and clean whenever I'm talking with people. And of course, like, the social interaction I get from talking with you guys is just awesome, just wonderful. We got Eric Gunnarsson, loud and clear. Hello to everyone. Thanks, dude. AJ, thank you for joining the stream again. Says, man, I love your thumbprints. Very jealous right now. Yeah, these things are, I mean, yeah, just a little bit of jelly and a little shortbread cookie. And I think there's some, like, specks of berries or something in there. You can kind of see it's not a pure yellow cookie. That just, yeah, it's great. It just adds a little bit of texture to it. I love these things. Michael says, hey, Steve. Hey, how's it going? Manic Tricks Woods, boxes of briefs. I'm team boxers all the way. Yeah, I got to make sure that you're able to move and everything like that. I am boxer briefs when I'm working out, though. I'll get some jockey shorts and make sure that, you know, wearing something with a little bit of compression and make sure that you avoid some of the chafing. AJ saying, hey, glad we can help with your hygiene habits, Steve. Yes! Little known fact, I have not worn deodorant for, like, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months. Yeah, I'm making sure that I'm buying, you know, the bare minimum of hair products, shampoo and conditioner, but deodorant, you guys can't smell me, so yeah, I don't worry about it. Mr. Bad Guy, those cookies look delicious. Yeah, they are really good. I love the Pepperidge Farm fancy cookies. I will say I don't wear deodorant too often anyway. Like, usually during the summer, but like, I'm not a super sweaty guy. That's one thing about being like a small guy, is I don't sweat a whole lot, so I don't have to worry about that too much. So it doesn't smell terribly bad in here, I promise you guys. I'm making sure that I'm nice and clean. Eric Wonderkey, you mentioned that you love both those flavors. I think the blueberry and cherry ones also. Yeah, I was looking at blueberry and cherry, and I was kind of like choosing, now which one do I want to try? All of them or just a few? So I thought just getting a couple. The strawberry and apricot are kind of like the classics, you know, apricot jam, very, very classic jam. And the strawberry jam, like, it's great. Mr. Bad Guy, you say the Verona is the name of an Italian city. Yeah, I think most of these cookies are named after, like most of the varieties of these fancy cookies are named after different cities around the world. They've got Brussels, for example. I can't think of any other, but I'm sure there are plenty others. They've got their chocolate chip cookies, which, if I remember right, most of them have like American named cities. I don't know, something like that. All right, as per usual, this morning I was feeling all right. The weather was doing okay, so I did go out, get in a nice run. Went to the local track. Yeah, anytime you see one of these little circles, that's where I ran. Just circles around, over and over and over again. A lot of people ask how far I run, and you know, if you think about it, I started here-ish, and I ended here-ish. So I actually ran about 0 miles this morning. There was a 6.5 miles in between the start and end, but yeah, it was technically 0 miles. But yeah, this morning I was working on 1,000-meter repeats, so a little bit longer repeats. Let's see, what do we got? Maintaining about a 6-minute pace. Looks like I went over 6-minute pace on one of these. 6:01 pace for number 7. Only did 4 of them because those trying to maintain a 6-minute pace for over 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. That's getting into VO2 max work where you're really stressing the lungs, really stressing the throat. I'm just trying to cycle as much oxygen as I can. It's really difficult to maintain that. I was pretty happy that I was able to maintain sub-6 pace for most of those intervals, though. It means that I'm getting better. Hopefully I'm improving. I think a couple of weeks ago, maintaining a 6-minute pace for 800 meters would have been a challenge. It certainly was a challenge, so... It does make it easier if you are fueling with some high glycemic sugar. But I was fueling with some... I was fueling with some low glycemic carbohydrate fuel, so I wasn't getting that blood sugar spike. So it was a little bit tough to kind of warm up and get into it. But yeah, like I said, I've been super tired. I've been really working hard, burning the candle at both ends these last couple of weeks, especially with trying to maintain a full-time job, working remotely, and doing this project class working remotely, which a project class remotely it just like triples the difficulty of it, man. It's so tough. So I've been working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, and it's been wearing on me, I'm not gonna lie. So I thought it'd be cool to take a look at just talk about some of the recovery stuff when it comes to exercise, because it is something that a lot of people overlook. When they think about fitness and training and everything, they're always thinking about the training aspect of it. They don't consider the fact that training actually breaks you down and makes you weaker and more tired. And it's the time between training when you're recovering and getting in that proper recovery is the time when you actually compensate for those intermittent periods of high stress. And it's the recovery periods where you do get stronger, you do bounce back from it, and you're able to hit it even harder the next time you're out. So it is kind of like the overlooked aspect of training and fitness until you get into the higher levels of more elite athletes. Then they start to realize that, like, oh, hey, if you make that movement from how should I say, a casual exerciser, a person who exercises to maintain health or something, like they go for a 40-minute walk a few times a week, to the kind of person who really wants to crush the 5K, then all of a sudden they realize that, oh, hey, there's a reason that periodization exists, and you can't just go all out every single day, or else you do, just end up breaking yourself down. So one of the most, I think, recognized terms of this is delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS for short, which is an interesting phenomenon where if you're lifting weights and you lift extremely heavy, you don't particularly feel the burn immediately afterwards. But let's see here. In DOMS, is the pain and stiffness felt in muscles several hours to days after unaccustomed or strenuous exercise. So if you're somebody who, let's see, like I remember an individual who was a weightlifter, power lifter, showed up at my running club one week because he said he wanted to try to get a little bit more variety in his exercise. And he tried to keep up with me for about a 6-mile run, I think. I was doing 12 miles that day, if I remember correctly. I was doing 2 6-mile loops, and he just stuck with me for the second half of it. And I mean, kudos to him for keeping up with me for most of that run. He did 6 miles at a decent pace, 7 or an 8-minute pace. And I am sure that guy was feeling it worse than his, heaviest leg day the next day. Because if you're not accustomed to doing something like that, and you try to, engage in that kind of exercise, especially going from 0 to a 6-mile run, like that is a huge, huge leap. So I'm sure that guy was feeling the DOMS pretty bad the next day. Let's see, the soreness is felt most strongly. I'm just reading the top little bit here. Pardon me. So it's felt most strongly 24 to 72 hours after exercise. It is thought to be caused by eccentric, I should say. Is that right? Eccentric? I think it's eccentric. Yeah, whatever. It's caused by the lengthening motion, which causes small-scale damage, microtrauma to the muscle fibers. So the difference there is, so there's the shortening of a muscle, which is like if you're doing a bicep curl, this is the kind of motion it is. And there's the lengthening of the muscle, which is, again, something that's not really thought too much about during exercise, but that's like resisting your muscle lengthening. So if you had a heavy weight and you're trying to lower it really slowly, then that would be the eccentric, the lengthening part of that exercise. So one way that's really, one particular exercise where that's really involved is with rock climbing, actually. So you see a lot of grip strengtheners. Do I have one nearby? I don't think I have one nearby. Ooh, I do, actually. So guys like this is a grip strengthener. This is 150 pounds. I don't even know if I could close this right now. There we go. I can just about close it one-handed. But yeah, a grip strengthener like this is best for training closing your muscles. But I'm big into rock climbing, and that's more about resisting your fingers from bending. So if you're grabbing onto something, you're trying to hold your body weight up. I guess you could probably see it a little bit better there. And you're actually resisting your fingers opening if you're like hanging off the edge of a rock or something like that. So those are, believe it or not, 2 different kinds of strength. One does not directly translate to the other. There's usually a little bit of correlation there, where a lot of times if you are training for eccentric strength, you will also happen to be training eccentric strength. But if you're not focusing on it, then yeah, it's not a complete one-to-one correlation. Ooh. Some of that peach cookie went down the wrong hole. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Those peach cookies, those are delicious. Those are absolutely amazing. Wonderful, wonderful flavor on those. Very different and distinct from the strawberry jam. I feel like strawberry and cherry taste pretty similar, but something like peach, yeah, it's way different. Okay. So Eric Gunnarsson, you ask, how many training days do I have in a week? It's a great question, and it does vary quite a bit. Nowadays, since I am stressed out, getting a lot of stress that's not exercise stress, it is delaying my recovery periods. So if I had time to myself, I might be able to get away with doing a heavy training day, like maybe 2 days, 2 out of every 5 days. But since I'm not sleeping nearly as much as I would like to, since I'm basically sitting at my computer doing stuff, it does happen to be more like once every 4 to 5 days. Is probably my typical heavy training schedule with like light days in between those. But it does depend definitely on the kind of exercise that you're doing. Because one Well, let's see. So there are lots of different systems that you're stressing when you're exercising. So when I'm running, for example, the main system that I am really stressing when I'm doing my long distance running is my energy system, where I'm really draining my glycogen stores. Now, if you run a marathon or something like that, and you completely drain your glycogen stores, it takes about 36 hours to restore your muscle glycogen, your liver glycogen, to make sure that you're ready to basically do the same thing again. But that assumes that you don't have to recover any microtrauma damage from your muscle. Don't have to worry about neural damage. Don't have to worry about joints, stuff like that. So I did pull up a couple of studies looking at neural damage. Again, most people, when they think of exercise, they think primarily of muscles, if not solely of muscles and muscle damage and muscle recovery, which I think muscle damage and muscle recovery is kind of like on the opposite end of the spectrum, where restoring your energy is probably the quickest in terms of recovery. So if that's all you're doing, you're just draining your energy and getting it back, think 36 hours. I don't know too many people that like exercise one morning, then exercise the next evening, and then take the next day off and exercise the following morning. Like having a 36-hour cycle like that, it's like it just doesn't fit too well with most people's lifestyle. So you typically see with endurance athletes, you see a 2 to 3 day training cycle with that. Now, one thing about this neural muscle fatigue, or this neural fatigue that I want to talk about right now, is that it is a different pathway for recovery. So let's see, neural fatigue is basically like your brain and your nerves get tired. So this is the full abstract of this article that I was looking at. Neural contributions to muscle fatigue from brain to the muscle and back again. And this is a giant article. I'm just going to read a couple of the highlights, though, that I went through. One thing about finding articles like this is it's a lot of text. Like, don't be dissuaded from really digging into this kind of stuff. Because, like, when I look at a study like this, basically I read the abstract, this bit right here, and then I go way down to the bottom. And I read the conclusion right here. And that's like 90% of the time, that's all I read from these articles. Sometimes I'll pick out some of the details in the middle, like if I'm really interested to get to the minutia. But if you read this, just looking at the conclusion of this article is basically looking at how neural fatigue based on neurotransmitters, particularly norepinephrine and dopamine, affected exercise. So as you do exercise, you get this like buildup of neurotransmitters that makes you feel more and more tired. And like it's completely obvious when you think about it. If you feel tired in your head, of course you're not going to be able to exercise quite as well. But these guys really just dug into the biochemistry of it. Let's see. During fatiguing exercises, there are many changes in the nervous system. Some of these contribute to fatigue, and others compensate to allow continued task performance despite reduced muscle forces. In the neuromuscular pathways, slowing or cessation of motor unit firing, MU stands for motor unit firing, contributes to the loss of force that marks fatigue, whereas recruitment of additional motor units can compensate for it. These changes in motor units firing result from a combination of influences from the motoneurons, including alterations in intrinsic properties, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, basically this entire thing is about how buildup of different neurotransmitters can affect, basically how well you're able to contract your muscles and how much force you can make. So this article was basically, it focused mostly on neural fatigue from heat and how it affected endurance performance. And, no surprise, hotter conditions meant that people weren't able to exercise quite as effectively. Now, I think that when it comes to recovery, this is another aspect that a lot of people just don't even think about. Because when you do exercise, you're fatiguing your nerves, you're fatiguing your brain, and it does take a long time. And it's not just willpower, it's not just mind over matter of overcoming this stuff. Like, it does have a really, really pronounced effect on your exercise performance. And I think this is kind of like the reason that people say that you run the first half of a marathon with your legs and the second half with your head. That is definitely true. Now, I think when it comes to nerve and brain health, the most important thing is to make sure that you're getting a good spectrum of fats, because it's the myelin sheaths on your nerves, around your nerves, which is like a fatty layer around your nerves. That's basically the part that's being degraded. And your brain, again, it's something like 80% fat. Like, your brain is mostly fat. Oh no, it looks like I've got a little bit of hiccups in the stream. I hope I'm not stuttering too much on the stream. Hopefully you guys can do this. Let's see where I was going with that. Yeah, so it does take a while for your motor neurons, your brain, and your myelin sheaths to recover after a hard bout of exercise. Now, this is the kind of exercise where you really have to concentrate hard on what you're doing. This is where you're talking about really precise movements, really quick movements. So this is the kind of recovery that somebody like Usain Bolt might have to go through after a really hard day of training. And it does actually take longer for your nerves and your neural pathways to recover than your energy stores. So you're looking at something that's more like on the lines of 3 to 4, maybe 5 days of rest and recovery, where you're not really focusing too hard on any single task. You're letting your mind just kind of like chill a little bit between these bouts of really hard exercise. And it's really strange. Like, if you do a set of sprints and you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit to move your legs as quick as possible for 10 to 15 seconds at a time, and you do that over and over and over again with maybe like 10 to 15 minutes between attempts, like, you get really mentally tired, at the end. Like, you feel like you've been doing calculus for hours. Like, it's really strange. And you just feel like you're sluggish. You can't move correctly. Oh my gosh. So yeah, if you're doing, like, ironically, if you're doing endurance exercise, you can actually recover from it more quickly than you can if you're doing shorter sprints. It's very, very strange that way. But I think the last part is the one that most people do think about, is the muscle breakdown. Oh my goodness. Got a little bit of cotton mouth from the last cookie. A little bit of muscle, or the really intense muscle breakdown that you might get from doing just like heavy squats, weighted squats to exhaustion, or you're doing really, really heavy powerlifting, max effort, 95% 1 RM weight deadlift, something like that. That's the kind of really deep muscle trauma that takes as long as 6 to 7 days to recover from. So yeah, it is a little bit counterintuitive to think that, if you're powerlifting, that's putting your body under stress. How should I say? That's generating force with your muscles for, just a couple of seconds at a time. And that's going to take you the longest to recover from, or you need the most days of rest in between. Now, if I had any time, I'd probably go into the difference between muscle damage and like ligament damage, which is another really interesting topic. Maybe I'll continue this tomorrow because there's a lot of interesting stuff about, like, when is active recovery better? What are the benefits of active recovery versus just like passive recovery? And when is it necessary? When is it better to just sit around and let your body, eat a lot of food, get fat, kind of thing? All right, I've been yammering on for quite a bit. Well, let's take a look at take one last look at the comments. See if there's any quick questions I can answer. Eric Gunnarsson asks, after an exercise day, do you always have a recovery day? I mean, it's always active recovery. Like I said, I only work out hard once every 4 to 5 days. So obviously, if I'm working out really hard once every 4 days, then 1 day of hard exercise is going to be followed by 3 days of chilling or active recovery. Tuna Shogun, thanks for hopping in. Good to see you, man. AJ says, I can't believe you called my brain fat. Yeah, man. Fat brain. Fatty brain. Fat should not be demonized. Excess adipose tissue, you can... maybe you can say something negative about that, but fat itself, like I said, if you ever look at the graphs that talk about the different like BMI or different amounts of fat that somebody has, you always have like excessive fat, moderate fat, low fat, or somebody who's like particularly lean, and then at the bottom of the scale where it's like 2 to 3% body composition for men. I think it's around like 8 to 10% for women. There's what's called the essential body fat. And basically, that's the fatty deposits in your brain and the fatty deposits around your myelin sheaths, around your nerves that they're talking about. That's the kind of fat that like your body shouldn't be really tapping into for energy. But yeah, you're right. I'm going to call your brain fat. Everybody's brain is fat. Hopefully your brain is fat. The fattier the brain, the better. And it's one of the primary reasons that people should not skimp on fatty foods, omega-3 fatty acids. Those are the ones that are really great for your brain. Like, it's no coincidence that people say that salmon is brain food. Eric Gunnarsson asks, are you eating more the day after exercise to make up for the recovery as good as possible? Dude, bro, I don't know, man. I eat when I'm hungry. I couldn't say. I don't go out of my way to think about it too much. Like, I don't get into minutia with a diet. Like, I think if you're powerlifting and you're trying to gain weight, probably a good idea. Otherwise, I'm mostly eating for energy, so I don't think about it too much. I do go out of my way to make sure that I'm getting plenty of antioxidants, vitamins and minerals on days that I'm not exercising. That's another thing, is if you get anti-inflammatories and antioxidants on days that you are exercising, that you're creating all this inflammation, it does tend to blunt the hormetic effect of exercise. So ironically, if you're taking Tylenol or taking your vitamins to make sure that you're getting your anti-inflammatories immediately after exercise, you're actually just not getting all the benefits that you could from exercise. So maybe waiting on that for a bit. Waiting on that to do, your anti-inflammatories, your antioxidants, your, vitamin-heavy foods. On off days, probably going to be a little bit better for your long-term health and for your long-term fitness. Ooh, pardon me. Free Jemmy asked, did the article mention connections between cortisol and neurotransmitters? No, it didn't mention, it didn't look at cortisol in particular. There are a lot of interesting connections between cortisol and exercise recovery and cortisol and just like its function basically in all kinds of fitness that I think is really interesting. But that particular article was focused on noradrenaline, serotonin, and dopamine. GW2333. What's up, Steve? Hey, what's up, man? All right, thank you guys for hanging out with me again. It was a lot of fun to blab at this microphone, to stare at a camera, eat a couple of cookies. I think it's definitely been too much blabbing, not enough cookie eating in this stream. I don't know about you guys, but... Okay. I gotta get back to it. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope everybody's staying safe. If you're living in America, if you're living inside one of these towns where things are crazy, I hope you're staying safe. Hope you're taking care of yourself, both physically and mentally. Hope you're looking out for your neighbors. Cannot stress that enough. Take care of each other. I think that's really super important. But yeah, until tomorrow, thank you guys. Peace out. You guys have a good one, and take it easy. I don't know where I'm going from that. I'm going to keep on rambling, see how long I can stretch out this goodbye. All right. Peace.